Young Sinatra IV is really happening, and that's great news for any long-time Logic fan. I'm pretty sure we all got super excited when we saw that black and white cover.
A black father and a white mother.
I really do want this project to be amazing, as I'm sure most of you guys do, but in this video I'm going to be presenting some points as to why I'm just slightly worried about this project. Now, I'm not saying Logic can't deliver here, I'm not even saying that I don't think he will. This is just to explain why I'm going into the project with cautious optimism and why I think that's the best approach. So with that being said, this is CDTVProductions. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram under that name, and let's look at why I'm a little bit cautious when approaching Young Sinatra IV.
Now I sit a masterpiece, no limit like masterpiece. Now I am the master C, that's the way it has to be. My life is a movie.
This is the main thing that is making me approach this tape slightly more apprehensively than usual. And this really clicked for me when I listened to Logic's new song and the newest single from Young Sinatra IV, titled Everybody Dies. I do think it's an enjoyable song for sure. Six and Q Beats killed it on the production, and most of Logic's flows were tightly constructed. I even got an Under Pressure vibe from the start of the second verse.
By example, with ample education, my lyricism is here to imprison your vision.
But lyrically, I barely got anything out of the track, and I'm bringing this up specifically because the Young Sinatra tapes are typically very bar focused. Let's just go through it and see what Logic says. So he starts with talking about how he grew up rough. This is something that we know already, but to his credit, he did have this really impactful line where he said he'd kill just to be a dog owned by a rich family because his upbringing was that rough. Then he talks about his confidence in his rapping ability, his performance at the Grammys, and then repeats the same lines for 4 bars. Not really anything new so far. Then we hit the second verse where Logic talks about trying to lead by example and be a positive influence, and he encourages the listener to do the same. Nice message. My problem is it just wasn't really delivered in a fresh or exciting way. The lines didn't really feel like they had that much depth to them. Lyrically, this doesn't seem like Logic pushing himself to nail that Young Sinatra sound at all. And keep in mind, this isn't just a song from the album, it's a song that Logic thought was great enough to represent the album as a single. Now I do understand that Logic has released a lot of music. In fact, in just the past 8 years, we've received 153 Logic tracks, and that's not even considering non-album songs. But that's exactly why I feel like he needs to push himself as hard as he can now. We're so familiar with his lyrical content that we really need something that doesn't sound, I guess the best word is tired, to grab our attention. Everybody Dies just wasn't that. He didn't talk about being biracial though, so that's a big plus right there. Then we can also look at the lead single from the project as well, One Day.
Alright. You ever wonder what it means to make it by any means and finally attain your dream?
Again, I like the message of this song. It's essentially about Logic's success and aims to inspire the listener. This is nice, but it would just be wrong to say it's an original concept coming from Logic. He has numerous songs that talk about the exact same thing. The only single that I felt kept me engaged with the lyrical content so far is The Return, easily my favourite single out of the 3 that have dropped. The third verse on there is brilliant. That is what I am hoping to hear more of on Young Sinatra IV.
Hey yo, motherfucker Trump said that shit on my last album, but you wasn't tapping in. Fuck a mumble, let's make America rap again.
This shows that Logic still has the talent to deliver a solid project, but I'm sure you can see how only fully enjoying 1 out of the 3 singles he's released has me a little wary.
Tell me how you really feel, how you really feel. All they ever did was hate the boy, but now they know the name.
Now, the quality of an artist's work can completely shift from one project to the next, so this isn't exactly the best indicator of what our expectations should be, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel like Logic has been on somewhat of a quality decline the past couple of years. For me, and a lot of other people, it started with the Everybody album. I personally was incredibly excited for that album, especially after Logic revealed what the concept and the purpose of the album was. But when it dropped, it just didn't live up to what I hoped it would be. Now, I made a whole video on this topic, that video will be linked below, but I'll tell you some of the reasons I didn't enjoy it so much right now. A lot of the time, Logic didn't really do more than scratch the surface with the complex issues he attempted to tackle, and it's here that I really noticed he was starting to let his lyrics slip a little bit, at least in my opinion. He overused that vocal cutting technique, and started to become more repetitive. Now, his following project, Bobby Tarantino II, definitely was a step in the right direction for me, but I still wouldn't say it was anything fantastic. We got some really enjoyable bangers from it, and it actually featured a track where Logic rapped as Young Sinatra, and it was easily my favourite on the project.
Anything I want, I get it somehow. Fuck that trap shit, it's that rap shit. Give me the hand like John the Baptist. Ready to rip it a hoof in the catches. Greatest alive like I'm Cassius.
But I still noticed that there were a lot of filler lyrics scattered throughout many of the tracks, and there were a few forgettable songs. I'm not saying it's a bad project at all, because it really isn't, but when I take Logic's earlier works into account, or even compare it to the first Bobby Tarantino tape, it just doesn't reach the same heights in my opinion. Now, like I said at the start of this segment, this doesn't mean Logic doesn't have the ability to produce another great project. I think he does. But I just don't want this to be another everybody situation where I allow myself to get incredibly hyped up and then just end up disappointed when it actually comes out. Hopefully it won't happen, but I think it's just always better to be prepared for that outcome.
Yeah, smoking in London while the snow fall. In another country, so pardon me from the roll call. Yeah.
The final point here is a pretty big one, and that is the fact that this is the follow-up to the incredible Young Sinatra trilogy, which consisted of Young Sinatra, Undeniable, and Welcome to Forever. These projects, man, they were just beautiful. It was amazing how you could see Logic progress as an artist throughout each tape. It was fulfilling hearing him talk more and more about his increasing success as each new tape dropped.
But I gotta keep grinding, cause everyday success what I'm finding. And I don't give a damn if you hate on me, cause when I blow, what you gon' say, homie? Like I was broke my whole life, then no, I don't miss it. Last 7 years of my life was in a lab, working every day, giving it everything I had. Now that a brother is finally recognized, I will not let the limelight hypnotize. And I bought my first pair of Jordans at 22. Same year I bought a crib too. Now my face in magazines I used to flip through.
The real strong points of these tapes were that they were motivational, relatable, and pretty diverse as well. There was a lot of different sounds on here. So the question is, can Logic deliver that same feeling and experience on Young Sinatra IV? I guess if anything, my biggest concern is that this project is going to sound more like a nostalgic callback to Logic's old sound, and won't actually be a full-on revival of the Young Sinatra persona. This particular set of mixtapes are held in such high regard in the eyes of Logic fans that I think a lot of them aren't going to accept anything less than an 8 out of 10 album at an absolute minimum. That is a lot to live up to.
I get up when I'm down, had enough, almost drowned. When shit rough, I get tough, and when I'm beaten to the ground, I get up.
So as you know, the only thing that can really resolve this video is the release of the actual album itself. Until then, all we can do is make sure our expectations aren't too unrealistic, I guess. Don't get me wrong, like, be excited for the album, it's just that I'm definitely going to be keeping these 3 points in mind as we get closer to its release date. This is not me saying it's going to suck. Logic could drop the best album he's ever released for all we know, but right now all we can do is speculate, and these are just my honest thoughts on what the album might be. So now let me ask you guys, what do you think about the points I made in this video, and do you guys think that Logic is going to deliver with this album? Is he going to disappoint? Are we going to love it? Will he still be our lovely biracial boy by the end of this?
A black father and a white mother.
Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. Leave a like if you did enjoy this video, and of course if you're new here you can subscribe if you want to see more content similar to this, posted just whenever. I don't really have a schedule. Like I said at the start of the video, you can find me on pretty much any social media under the name CDTVProductions. You know, there's my Twitter, my Instagram, my Snapchat, which I never use, but it's there. And that's all I've got to say today, guys. So let's look forward to September 28th, but let's just approach it carefully and make sure we're not expecting a god-level album, just in case we don't get it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll hopefully see you all in the next video, and this is CDTV Productions, signing out.